So, Rabbi, what is Kiddush LeVana? Great question. Kiddush LeVana is not a white Kiddush, but rather refers to a very beautiful ceremony that takes place every single month. Before the full moon, it is a tradition on the Saturday night to go out and look at the moon. And we recite a special prayer regarding the moon. The word Levana is one of the euphemisms or names for the moon, because it is so bright, white in the sky. Kiddush means to sanctify. So we sanctify the moon. According to the texts, it is a time on which we are able to go and meditate about godliness, connection, and God. What's so special about the moon is that the moon is always changing its shape. According to the Midrash, when God creates the world, it says at the beginning of Genesis that God creates two great luminaries. Shnei Orot Gedolim, it says. And then it says, Or HaGadol, the great light to rule in the day, Or HaKatan, the small light to rule at night. The rabbis explain as follows, in a fascinating Midrash, that the moon comes to God and says, how can there be two kings of one kingdom, me and the sun? God replies, fantastic point, I therefore make you smaller. So the moon itself is left saddened by the fact that it lost out some of its brilliance. And the tradition is as follows, that as we know, the Jewish calendar primarily revolves around the sighting of the moon in the old days gone by, known as Kiddush HaChodesh, sanctification of the new month. We base our calendar around the lunar cycle. Our festivals are based, the start of the festivals is primarily based around the lunar cycle. And it was the very first commandment given to the Jewish people before they exited from Egypt. Why did God say, I want you to use the moon to count time and not the sun? Very simply, the sun is the same size in the sky. Come summer, come winter, it never changes. The Egyptian culture at the time believed in the sun and said like this, in the same way as the sun is permanent in the sky, never changing, so too you never change. If you're a slave, you remain a slave. If you're king, remain a king. And thus God teaches Moses, teach the Jewish people this concept. Kiddush LeVana, look at the moon. The moon is always in flux, it's always changing. You can change your identity. You can be hidden, it can be dark, and there can be brightness. But the beauty of so what is Kiddush LeVana all about? It symbolizes the charts the story of Jewish history. There have been times when things have been very dark, and we've looked to the moon and seen even in the sky, in the moments of darkness, it was darkness before the start of the redemption. But when things were bright in the sky, the full moon, there was always a risk that things could fall apart and be lost again. And that's the message of the Levana, of the sighting of the moon. And the Kiddush LeVana is, we pray that this particular month, the moon should reach its fullness, become bright in the sky, and should remain there and not have to go and lose its luster and shine. It's a symbol, it's a prayer for the Jewish people. In the same way as the moon rises and becomes a full moon, so too may we ultimately fulfill our Jewish history and Jewish destiny and become that light in the sky, with no more persecution and no more times of darkness. So in the month, before the 15th, we go outside, leaving straight after Shabbat, when the holiness of Shabbat is with us, and we recite the prayers of the Kiddush LeVana, and we sanctify the moon and say, may this be the month in which you are fulfilled, in which the world has completion, and that we can enjoy the full light symbolized by the moon, but in reality, the light of spirituality, of godliness in the world. And now you know.